About the film, really, well, it was the 6th Hammer film to feature Christopher Lee as the Count, and the first one to resurrect him in a modern-day setting, and the first to reignite or rejoin the legendary vampire with his arch-enemy, which is Van Helsing, bringing him back into the world, played by Peter Cushing. But let's talk firstly to our lady, who is our guest of honour this evening, Caroline Munro. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thank
in this
you,
setting.
really.
I wonder.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Let's go right back to your early days. For people who may not know that much about you, you actually started off in your career as in an art school. You were interested in art to begin with.
I'd left my, sounds weird, I'd left my convent. I was not a nun, believe me, I was not a nun. But I'd left my convent school because the school closed down, and I thought I was going to enter the field of art because that was about the only thing I could do. Being very dyslexic, it was a real struggle for me. So I thought, well, that is going to be it. I'm not bad at art, I'm not great, but I can sort of doodle a bit. So I thought, and my mother thought, well, that could be the right road for me. So I did go to Saturday to art school. I went to Saturday art school to Brighton, and very good, amazing college, and I learned quite a lot. Every Saturday I'd go and do life study, and I was only 16, so it was coming from a convent, it was quite an eye-opener to see an elderly gentleman in the altogether. That was quite a, yes. But at that point, there was a chap studying photography who said, can I take some photographs of you? So that was his chosen thing. So I said, well, yes, that's fine. So he did. So the pictures went on to be picked up by David Bailey, a very famous photographer of his day, 60s, 70s. Still works today. He's a wonderful photographer. And it was picked up and it won the competition. So I kind of was on my funny little merry way without really working at it.
Yeah, so you sort of drifted into
I drifted into
modelling. Because it's a natural thing for a lot of models to go on and do small parts in commercials and stuff like that. Models seem to drift into acting.
They tend to get asked to do stuff, and that kind of did happen in my case. I was asked to do, along with everybody else in London at the time. I was a country girl. I'm from the seaside, really, so coming up to the Big Smoke with my parents, we moved up together, and then I was offered an extra part in Casino Royale, the original Casino Royale. That's before, I think, looking round, most of you were born. I think you weren't even twinkles then, but so I was an extra. I was one of the one of the girls in hundreds of girls there, and I was one of the ones there.
The one with David Niven.
David Niven and Woody Allen.
And Peter Sellers. Everybody played
Everybody, Orson Welles,
Yeah,
Ursula Andress, and Dahlia Lavi, some amazing names. And there was 5 directors, I think 5 directors on the film, and my director was Val Guest, and I asked him if I could kind of sit just on the side and watch work, whereas all the others would go off and whatever they do, the other ladies. So I used to just sit quiet as a mouse and watch these amazing people work. So that was kind of my little beginnings, really. Yeah.
Because your first ever Hammer film, did you do an interview, a screen test?
I did a screen test. I did a screen test with a wonderful director called Peter Collingson, who had done some brilliant films, 60s films, The Penthouse, and he did
Straight On Till Morning.
Straight On Till Morning, yes he did. Rita Tushingham and Shane Bryant. So you didn't have, our director was Alan Gibson, who was amazing, but we didn't do too many rehearsals, which works for me. I don't like to over-rehearse, because if you over-rehearse, it's not as spontaneous. It's not the same as having heard it the first time or seen it the first time. You know, I think very often when you look back, and if I look back on various films, they've often used the first take, and you think, I can see why. You know, you might be a bit stuttery or but it's more realistic. And for me, that realism is the key for me.
Sometimes with Alan Gibson being a younger director,
He was
seemed
young and he was very on point.
Yeah.
He was absolutely on it. A little bit scary to work with. You know, he was really quite demanding, but it was good because it pulled it out of you. You know, he kind of got, I think, what he wanted from.
Yeah, and interesting shots. I think you'll see when you see the film. It's different from a lot of the sort of standard Hammer films that were made at the time. I know it's set in a modern setting, but also he moves the camera around more than other people.
He does.
Has interesting setups. There's a great one when a car's arriving through the mews, I think, and all you can see is just the corner, and everything else is black. It looks like an old-fashioned blackout split screen job, and it just pans round, and you think, oh, it's different to see something like that in a Hammer film, because they were becoming
it was very different
ordinary.
because they were quite Hammer films. I think were known for the wonderful gloss and the whole look of the thing, the Gothic, the whole wonderful feeling, and they looked beautiful. They looked impeccable. All the women looked beautiful, and the men looked beautiful. The clothes were perfect, all done on a small budget. Whereas ours was slightly more rough and ready, would I say?
I think so. Yeah.
And one of the opening scenes was very much improvised, which was great fun because I was working with these extraordinary actors.
I was going to
Stephanie
say
Beecham
your gang. Did you
our
get
gang.
on? You get on very well with Janet Keys.
I was a bit scared. I was the new kid on the block. I'd done nothing, and they'd all they came from Michael Kitcham.
Yes,
she'd done the Nightcomers with Marlon Brando.
Yeah.
I mean, and there was I who'd really kind of done nothing much. So it was a strange one, but they were very embracing. And
I can remember seeing you used to literally sort of hang around as a gang.
Yeah,
on
we
the,
did.
On the set a lot.
Yeah,
you know,
we did.
Chatting and
yeah,
everything.
we did. We
So you must have
chatted.
got
They
on
were
with them
lovely.
really well. Yeah. All that gang had their own little costume, particularly for the party.
Yeah, we did.
You had the guy who was always dressed like a sort of monk. Johnny Alucard was always.
Johnny,
yeah.
yes.
And then,
Christopher Neame.
Yeah.
Very slick.
Stephanie had her nice sort of outfit.
She looked beautiful.
And it comes to the party scene, and you've got hot pants on.
I know. It was not my choice.
Oh, right, that's what we wanted to know.
And apparently I was told that mine was the actual vintage. The top I was wearing was vintage. And it was quite beautiful, but once I got over the thought of having to wear that, they were my own boots.
Oh, right.
Yes.
So half and half then?
Half
really?
and half. They were my
that's
own
good.
boots because I thought, no, I'm not going to wear high heels. I'm a boot girl. Because at the time, when it did come out, people didn't get it, and I believe Michael Carreras wasn't that happy.
I can understand.
Yeah,
that,
because it didn't have the boobs and all the stuff that it didn't have all that stuff.
No, but
not a lot of gore.
It had a lot of charm in the actual action when it gets going. I find from the moment
I
Dracula
think so.
appears.
Yeah.
From that moment onwards,
Yeah.
it really is. It's quite engaging. You find you really sort of
Yeah,
get
you
carried
take
away with
note
the
when
whole
he appears.
of it.
Definitely, you sit up. Yeah.
And the set, St. Bolthops,
Yes.
was an amazing set because
That was extraordinary.
It was big for one thing.
It was huge.
When you walked around it, you really felt like it was a deserted church. And
I mean, it felt like who was our lighting chap? Who was it?
on that. Dick Bush was.
Dick
was
our DP.
And that's why I think Dick Bush and Alan Gibson together make it work so well. Yeah.
I mean, it was so atmospheric, that church. You just kind of wouldn't want to be there.
No.
And it
I didn't
was
like.
just
I had to walk through the set once when it was quite dark.
by yourself. Creepy.
Yes.
Ooh.
A bit scary. A bit
A
scary.
bit spooky. It was a bit spooky.
You're immune, you work for Hammer.
That's true. You knew
Yes,
that when you walked through it and outside, you'd be going to the world of L3 Studios, so it'd be all right.
Yes.
Yeah,
You'd
that
be
was
safe.
And when it came to your body being discovered, there is a story here
Yeah.
that when you had to shoot that, which was on location.
It's always sod's law that they always shoot the scenes when you're kind of wearing your coldest things in the winter. So obviously it was a winter shoot, and they dug this hole for me to stand in. So it was quite a deep hole, and they put maybe a tarpaulin in, because don't forget, we're outside, it's in the winter. So they put the tarpaulin in, had this good deep hole. So I was to get in the hole with my arm out. So one arm was meant to be out, and they were going to bury me. So what they did obviously was plastic bricks and earth. So they buried. So I was kind of up to my neck with my hand out, and they dressed it. They'd put more whatever they did, which you'll see on my face and hand. And then it started to rain. It was in Chelsea, it was London, it's going to rain, it's in the winter. Started to rain. So Alan said, oh, he said, right, said, well, tea break, tea break. So they said, he came over, he said, Caroline, are you all right? I said, yes, I'm fine. He said, well, we're just going to go off and have a tea break, but we'll leave, what was her name? I think it was Rosemary Burrows, lovely Rosemary, with me. They said, well, we'll put a tarpaulin because we don't want to spoil the makeup. Yeah. So they put the tarpaulin over my head, and Rosemary Burrows, wonderful Rosemary, who did the costumes, and they went off and had tea for half an hour. It's not all glamour.
No, we noticed particularly with the altar scene, because did Alan Gibson warn you about exactly what was going to happen?
No, but that's good.
Yes, because you got the reaction.
You got the reaction. We kind of blocked it, but we couldn't do it really because you'd have to kind of clean it all up. Yeah. So we kind of blocked what I would do, the action, and then Christopher Neame would be doing this wonderful, scary sort of chanting. Yeah, absolutely. The Black Mass, I suppose, summoning up. So you couldn't really rehearse that terribly much. So we pretty much did it as is. So the reactions with him and I,
quite real.
They were real.
That was good.
Yeah, they were real.
So I'll open up the floor really if anybody's got any questions for Caroline, because there's 10 minutes
to go.
I don't
bite.
No. This gentleman here.
Do you have any sort of superstitious worries about Black Mass?
No, I didn't. I actually wasn't a Catholic. It was just the school was in the village. They did languages, which seemed to be the thing I could do a bit, and they did netball, which I loved. So I liked the games and the sport, and I could just walk across the fields to get to the convent. So in a little village called Rottingdean, which is outside of Brighton. But no.
So you're not superstitious?
No, not superstitious at all. No, I'm really not, actually. No. It's a good question, though.
What was it like working with Vincent Price in Fights?
Oh, Vincent Price. Sadly, I didn't get to do any dialogue scenes with Vincent, but just got the pleasure of lying in the coffin with him. So it was just, he would just speak, and that wonderful velvet voice was enough to kind of soothe you, and plus his cooking. He used to come in early in the morning. We all did. Again, we came in 6 or 7 in the morning, and he'd bring in what he'd made the night before. He was a fantastic cook, and I bet some of you have got his cookbook, or he was a wonderful chef, and he'd come in with a pate, and then he'd make us food, and we'd have the food with the makeup girls, and he was just delightful. I mean, what an honor to have worked with such a man. I was under contract to Hammer at the time, and when I was approached to play the wife of Vincent, Hammer said, well, we don't really want you to go, and if you do, you can't have your name on the titles. I said, I'm really not bothered. I just would want to be working and watching him work, so no title. I didn't do a lot, did I, actually? I was...
Yes.
Ooh, that's a tricky one. I've been very, very lucky. That is a good question. I've been very lucky to have worked with some amazing men and women. Roger Moore I adore. Christopher, I owe a lot to, because that was my turning point when I realized that I actually wanted to take it a bit more seriously than I had done. So I feel I owe a lot to him in that way. Peter Cushing was just amazing to work with. I worked with him twice. I worked with him on the Dracula A.D, and then I worked with him at the Earth's Core, and he was just extraordinary.
Yes.
Yeah. Why do you think there is so much interest in Hammer now? Why do you think it's lasted this long?
I think maybe there's a slight backlash to, because and I'm very guilty of this, because in the 70s I did a lot more hardcore horror, say like a Maniac, and I did some much harder, because obviously people wanted more. But I think people now are looking back to the kind of romance and the erotic kind of wonderful gothic style that these films had. I think people kind of now have maybe seen as hard as it gets, and they do get. I mean, they're really quite. I'm not one for going to watch horror films. Isn't that awful? I should never say that.
Well, I think Hammer films have a certain charm.
They have a charm. They were
as well as
beautifully
being
shot.
Scary in places.
Yeah,
but
scary
they're
in
not
places.
That scary, you know,
no, but I'm really pleased you liked that film, because I did. As I say, it was a turning point for me, and yeah, but it wasn't well received at the time. But now I think people look at it and think, yes, it has a certain charm, definitely, and it has Christopher and Peter.
Yeah.
So what more could you want?
A classic in itself.
And I do get, if we go to the shows or the conventions, there are a lot of people that come up with their sons or daughters, and they've seen it, and very often it's the grandparents, which is very spooky, that have seen it first, and then the sons or the daughters, and then the children. So it's wonderful. I mean, Hammer, I don't know, Hammer like Bond is a English kind of wonderful
it's kind of a tradition
legacy.
Almost now,
It's
isn't it?
tradition.
Yeah,
It's tradition.
absolutely.
And I wish, I mean, he has come back. I mean, Hammer has come back to a certain extent. It can never be the same because they've progressed so much. You know, in film, you have the CGI and you have the expertise that we didn't have. And also they have the budgets, which make a terrific difference. We shot on very small budgets. You know, we really did.
Well, most
So
Hammer pictures were sort of £200,000 budget.
yeah, £200,000.
6-week shoot.
That's it. That's it. So you know, when you look at this film, I mean, the production value is amazing. So how they did that for that amount of money in those days, and the films did internationally really well. It's phenomenal, really.
They did it because they paid Brian and I peanuts, basically.
Well, no, they did. But didn't we have fun? Didn't we work
yes,
hard?
we worked hard.
Yeah.
That was the main thing.
That's the thing.
And they were always making pictures
Yeah.
as well.
They were always making films. In the 70s, England was so prime. I mean, it was so on the top of its game, wasn't it, for films?
It was.
All the productions came, and I'm really pleased that a lot of the productions are coming back now. To Pinewood has never been busier, but it's so good that you are so young and that you're here. You know, that is what is amazing, that you've come along and seen an old girl like me in an old film like this. That's brilliant. That's so good.
So thank you very much, Caroline
yeah.
Munro.